But when it's adult like Donald Trump, you bully the out of him back. You push back. You make sure they know it's not there. Because at heart, this is a weak, cruel man that takes it out and punches down on people.
That line did not just float in the air. It hit like a spark. Tim Walz was not making a policy announcement or explaining numbers. He was taking a swing at Trump's character.
He says he wants to be a dictator on day one, just for one day. Has there ever been a one-day dictator? No, of course not. He wants to weaponize our institutions, democratic institutions, against the American public. Look, take his own word for it. He said he wanted to be that dictator, and he said he would do it during his presidency. He's not just saying it, people. He's promising. He's promising. We know enough about our history. Shame on us if we're not listening. Maya Angelou was right. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. He is telling us. Believe him.
By framing Trump as a wannabe dictator, he was trying to set himself up as the teacher who puts the bully in check. And that's where Tyrus comes in. He was not impressed by Walz's tone, his choice of words, or even the way he delivered them.
And I don't love the way he says, fierce.
Yeah.
We've got to be fierce. We
That's from watching
fiercely
a
have
lot
to
of
go up to
RuPaul.
President Trump and spank him. We gotta bully him. I gotta get my hands on him. I'm gonna Greco-Roman him to the ground. But the creepiest thing that he said besides all that, a teacher, the worst thing for a teacher to do is watch a bully.
Tyrus did not waste a second before tearing into Walz's delivery. The way Walz repeated the word fierce became the first target. Tyrus mocked it, saying Walz sounded less like a leader and more like someone trying too hard to act tough. Walz wanted to look like the individual standing up against Trump, but Tyrus showed how his performance did not match the role. The repetition, the way he tried to hammer the word, came across as scripted. Instead of sounding powerful, Walz's words gave Tyrus all the material he needed.
He's not a teacher. He's not a politician. He's a creepy guy who can't remember his speeches.
But here's the thing. It was not just the words. Tyrus started talking about how masculinity plays into politics today, especially in the wake of movements like Me Too. He argued that if a politician looks like they're fronting, the audience notices. Walz was doing exactly that. He was trying to sell toughness, but it did not go well.
Masculinity is deeply part of it. That's one of the, I think it goes, and you can look at the reasons why we've had this sort of dialectic over the Me Too movement.
How do you fight it?
This notion
I think
of
I could kick most of their.
What he's mad about is his own fault. He's mad about the image that was portrayed of him as the hunter and who did that? You did that. We just laughed about it because the one thing you can't do is you can't front. You can't floss. Those are two key words when it comes to manhood. You can't pretend to be something that you're not.
For Tyrus, politics is not just about policies. It's about how leaders carry themselves. And in his view, Walz was failing the basic test of being genuine. And that's when Tyrus started digging into Walz's actual record. The first thing he pulled out was his handling of the COVID-19 lockdowns. Tyrus reminded people of the rules that just did not add up. Gyms were forced to close, church doors were locked, but liquor stores? They were allowed to keep running. Tyrus argued that Walz was not protecting Minnesotans with those decisions. He was confusing them. It made no sense to the average citizen trying to figure out how to live through the pandemic. Tyrus did not stop at Walz's COVID record. He moved on to Walz's tendency to shift positions depending on the moment. He called Walz a political shapeshifter, someone who could bend his words to fit the crowd, but never stand any principles. One example was Walz's changing tone on key cultural issues. One day he'd sound progressive, promising to push forward bold ideas, but the next he'd dial it back with more cautious language, almost as if he was second-guessing himself. Tyrus summed it up as political gymnastics, flipping and twisting to land in the safest spot possible. But in politics, safety is not always strong, and Walz's habit of trying to balance both sides made him look more like an actor reading lines than a governor making tough choices.
And I think that's what hurt Tim Walz so much, was that they tried to paint this picture of him that he wasn't. And instead, you don't have to be a manly man to be a man. You don't have to be, a guy who's an outdoorsman if you're not. There's nothing worse for a man to pretend to be something you're not.
The point Tyrus hammered was simple. Real leadership does not wobble with the wind. If you believe in something, you stand by it, even if it costs you. But Walz, in his eyes, was more concerned with managing his image than with leading decisively. He'd project strength one day and backpedal the next, leaving voters unsure of what he actually stood for. When George Floyd was killed in Minneapolis in 2020, the state was thrown into unrest. The world's eyes turned to Minnesota, waiting to see how its leaders would respond. And this was where Tyrus said Walz's leadership cracked. Instead of decisive action, he seemed unsure of how to handle the crisis, and that hesitation cost him. Tyrus compared Walz's response to a guy holding a garden hose at a 5-alarm fire. The crisis was raging, but the tools Walz used were not enough, and nothing exposes a leader's true character faster than their stance on law and order. On paper, Walz spoke about fairness, unity, and reform. He wanted to present himself as the leader who could bridge divides and guide Minnesota toward healing. But in practice, it looked more like chaos management. Instead of a clear direction, people got shifting responses, sometimes siding with protesters' demands, other times promising more support for police, but never drawing a line that showed where he really stood. This contradiction left both sides frustrated. Reform advocates felt he was not going far enough, while supporters of law enforcement felt abandoned. Tyrus pointed out that Walz seemed caught in the middle, trying to keep everyone happy, but ultimately leaving no one satisfied. And in politics, that's one of the worst places to be, because it makes you look weak. Tyrus did not just focus on Walz's policies or his handling of crises, he also went after the image Walz carefully built for himself. Walz likes to present as the relatable dad politician, the kind of guy who shows up at a picnic with potato salad, chats with neighbors while mowing the lawn, and cracks a few safe jokes to make everyone feel comfortable. It's an image that works well for voters who want someone down to earth. But Tyrus was not buying it. To him, Walz was not being himself. He was playing a character. It was a product sold to voters to make them feel like he's one of them. He argued that Walz is not just a politician, he's an entertainer in disguise. Tyrus compared Walz to a magician at a birthday party. The crowd might clap and cheer, but once you see how the illusion works, you cannot be impressed anymore. And that was his main point. Walz's act relies on people not questioning him. But the moment someone like Tyrus exposes the hidden agenda, the magic disappears. Tyrus framed Walz as the poster child for a certain kind of modern politician, one who says one thing, does another, and relies heavily on performance to get by. It's not just about Minnesota's governor anymore. In Tyrus's telling, Walz represents a whole class of leaders who are better at branding themselves than actually solving problems. He pointed back to the patterns, the flip-flops, the hesitation during George Floyd's unrest, the mixed messaging on law and order, and the image of being the average guy. To Tyrus, it all connected. This was not a series of random mistakes. It was a style of leadership rooted in performance. Walz was not showing voters who he really was. He was auditioning for the role of a leader, hitting his marks like an actor on stage. But what do you think? Is Tyrus right, or is this just another case of political theater? Drop your thoughts in the comments.